I'm going to do this digitally rather than traditional media. It's just a bit easier to record and a little bit easier for me to show you what's going on. So to begin with, I'm going to be making just a rough sketch, nothing dynamic. This is just to set our new character up. So I'm just building his basic proportions. There's a number of different ways you can do that. In this book here, it has a few different techniques for building up a wireframe and what basic shapes you need to use. I'm not going to go into that here. I'm just going to show you how I do it now and how I build a character. I don't really know what I'm going to make. I have not decided whether it's a good guy or a bad guy or a girl. It's going to be a guy, let's be honest, that's what I'm better at drawing. But other than that, it's all very loose. We're just going to see where the pencil takes us. As you can see, I'm using more of the sort of scribble technique. I know roughly the proportions I need to go with, but heroic portions, they're not something I really do. I lean more realistic, with a little bit of exaggeration on the muscles. So now that we've got the basic form sketched out, I'm just going to use some red here and show you where the skeleton actually is. This is a little bit backwards. Usually you'd start with the skeleton and then flesh it out. I've done it the other way around because of bad habits. Just to show you where things look. And it will also, when I take away this sketch layer, it will show you where I'm making mistakes on the proportions, because, yeah, that's not quite right. It's close, but I would have done a better job if I'd started with that wireframe to set my pose, rather than the way I've done it. So let's make that layer a bit transparent and tidy up this sketch a bit so you can see the details a little bit better. I'm fairly confident with drawing the torso. I'm not using any reference for this either. That's another bad habit. Ideally you would have a photographic reference of some description to work from, but I'm pretty confident that I can do these shapes. I've drawn them a lot. So we'll just flesh him out and just give him some more defined form, not putting detail into the feet. I know I'm going to put boots on this character, so the feet are just going to be a loose shape. And I mean, you know, it's not looking too bad. We're getting there. This top section, I'm actually pretty happy with that. I think overall the proportions here are reasonable. It has that sort of heroic, chunky look to it, a little bit stocky perhaps, but it seems fairly balanced. The bottom section, I don't know, the legs feel a bit stumpy perhaps. Needs some tweaking. Maybe it's the pose of the legs, maybe the weight's not carried quite right. It's quite a stiff pose, but then it is a reference. So let's just tweak that in a bit, another layer again, and we'll just move this in. It's another advantage with digital. If I was doing this with pencil and paper, I'd have to rub out lines and overdraw, and yeah, it's a little bit more difficult for what I'm doing here. I'm just going over the lines just to tidy everything up, clean it so I can see a bit better what I'm dealing with and where I want to end up. I have sped this footage up a bit as well. This did take me around about an hour and a half all in. So I'm happier with that pose now. I think that's a better pose. I think the weight looks a little bit more natural for the character, and we can build from this now. So consider what I've done so far like a loose inked sketch, and I've made that layer transparent again so that I can go over with a fresh layer, and we're going to put some tidier inks in. This will just tighten up all of the various parts of the body. Just turn the body layer off, we're going to do the head. I do struggle with human faces. I need a lot of practice with human faces, so I don't know what kind of face I'm going to end up with here, because I don't really know who this is going to be. I don't know what they're going to be, and that's another really bad habit. If you go in with some idea of what you want to draw, you're going to end up with what you want to draw. I have no idea at all. So as you can see, I'm reworking this quite a bit, because it's just not coming together the way I want it to at all. I haven't even settled on a nose shape. I haven't settled on a race for this character. And that does make a big difference on the facial structure. Proportions, not so much, they're very similar, but like the shape of the nose, the shape of the brow, the jawline, yeah, it's Well, it's not going great, as you can see. I've put a blue ink line in, so I've got another reference for my underlying structure there, my underlying shape, and I'm just seeing where we end up, and yeah, I'm already falling into a trap I very often do with human faces, where I've made the head too short, or I've made the face too big for the head. I need a lot more practice on this front, but that's okay. That's where we're starting from. Just moving the head a bit in relation to the body, just to correct the proportions so it looks a bit more like it should. We're definitely into fantastical proportions on this character, but it's okay. But that head, oh dear, we've got some more work there. I'm not happy with that arm either. Where is it? Where is it in relation to the rest of the character? Why is it so... What's going on? The feet, there's something not quite right there, but you know what? Sometimes you have to look at it and go, I'll fix what I know, I can see I can fix, and I'll leave the rest. So that arm is way too skinny. It's definitely too skinny. So we've got to beef that up a bit. We've got to do something with the posing there. It's not right. Fix this head first. Let's give it some height, because the like from here up is much too short and the wrong shape. There we go, that's a lot better now. And let's have a look at this arm. Yeah, I'm going to check where I think the muscles should be, how long I think it should be, where the arm should sit. Not feeling it, so if we're going to go with superhero inspiration, let's do that. He's already got the one arm up, let's have the other one on the hip. Let's balance the pose out a bit, let's do something interesting with it. Just redraw some things. There's a lot of this. Because I don't have a clear idea in my head, this is like the concept sketching that you do, and this is a very bad way to do it. I will admit that completely. Just changing the angle of this arm, tweaking it about a bit. Haven't quite yet figured out what's not right there. The chest's okay. It's a little bit flat, but we'll deal with that later. But I think I'm happier with that. I think that arm position is better. It looks more like there's some weight there where it should be, so it's okay. It's passable for this stage. I think we can manage. Just shift some of these muscles around. Yeah, that hand's not quite right, so let's sort that other hand out. Again, a reference would have been a good idea here to fix that. And the bulge on that thigh is in the wrong place, the knee's too high. So let's fix that line, and yeah, that's better. I think we can work from that and build. So I think that is pretty good for our basic sketch. So let's have a look at our proportions now. And yeah, that forearm's a bit short. It should be a little bit higher than it is. I know there's some foreshortening likely to happen with this pose, but again, I've not really paid a lot of attention to my perspective. So you can't really tell what should be and shouldn't be shortened. Again, more bad habits, more laziness in my artwork. Legs are okay. The shoulders look a little bit narrow, but I think this is to do with the overall proportions, because I'm working closer to a realistic height proportion for the length of the limbs and things, rather than a heroic proportion. Because your heroic portions end up making the character a lot taller than realistically they would be. So we'll fix this arm first. The general shape is there, but it's not... Yeah, there we go. Twist the arm around so the fist is actually on the leg, on the hip, where it should be. Stick the elbow out a little bit. It does help if you've got a mirror and you can look at yourself and make the pose. Doesn't matter if you're not the same body type, it tells you where your limbs and things are going to go, so that does help. And again, I should have been doing some of that, but I wasn't. So I'm just sketching the muscles back in here so I know roughly where everybody's going to go. And you can see, basically, this is what, the third time I've redrawn this arm and that part of the chest now. Yeah, that's how it goes. And I still don't know what outfit this character is going to have. So I'm having to draw all of this in because I don't know whether he's going to be a bodysuit type character or whether he's going to be more like street clothes or something else entirely. Is he even going to stay human? I have no idea. So just keep piddling about with this until we get it looking sort of, yeah, that'll do. You know, it'll do for now. It's fine. That area's, yeah, it's better than it was. I'm not sure it's quite right, but it's close enough. So we're good. We're good. We've got rid of that stumpiness in the arms. They feel more like they should be. Head doesn't look too small. I still think that head's sitting a bit low. But then again, if you look at bodybuilders, they do look like their head sits a bit low, but in comic book artwork, generally the neck's a bit longer. We'll leave it for now. I'm just checking there the proportions, because on a normal person, the length of the body is the same as the length from the hip to the knee and the knee to the ankle. And that's roughly about right. Body's a little bit long, but that's okay for this. We'll lift up that head, make it a bit bigger. Yeah, I think that's better. That looks a little bit more balanced than it did. Yeah, okay. Right, so that's our basic character. That's his basic body shape. And it's just in very basic ink right now. So there's no details. This is just our rough template. So let's find out who he is. I want to do something different with the hair. So let's go with a big poofy sort of afro type thing. Just lots of volume, lots of big curls, and then something shaved down the side. We can do what you want, you know. There's no rules here. We're making it up as we go along. Now I'm just trying to decide what I want to do for the outfit. So just sketching some basic shapes in. I'm a bit more comfortable with clothes because I know how they work. But I'm still not sure what I want to do here. I don't know. I think I might have been subconsciously leaning into some 90s X-Men stuff here. The cartoon that used to be on. Like I say, I knew I wanted boots, and I think I want some slouchy, partially laced boots. Maybe a chain, maybe some sort of sleeveless thing, some cuffs. I'll throw some colour blocking on. That often helps me figure out what I'm looking at. It gives me the silhouette so I can see, you know, is this the look I want? Are these the proportions I want? And, oops, we've gone a little bit Jubilee there, but that's fine, that's fine. It's superhero stuff. It's not a problem. I think we can work with this. I think it's okay. I think we can actually build on what we've got here, maybe not these colours. I do like the hair. That's definitely one of my favourite parts of this. So what we've got? We've got some cuffs. Just cuffs. Maybe they're magical cuffs. Maybe there's something to do with the superpower. We've got a turtlenecked crop top, which is a choice. But okay. A cut-off jacket. Maybe a denim jacket. That could work quite well with this look. The trousers, I want them to be like cargo pants or fatigue, sort of like baggy with pockets. I think that'd be quite good. It does take away from the superhero thing a bit, because if you've got skinny legs, it makes the top of the body look bigger and gives you that sort of Superman look. So that might work against me. Maybe a big chain, maybe a big coloured chain. Because that can be nice for emphasising the shape on the shoulder and the chest. So it can give you some depth where you might not be able to with a pose, so that you can move the chain around and the jewellery around, but we'll see. Right, I'm really confident with drawing clothes on bodies. I don't know whether this is a bad habit or not, because I work with clothing, so I know how it should hang, I know how it should be constructed, and I know how it shouldn't behave. So I can very confidently go in like this and just slap down some lines because I know that's how a collar would sit, that's how a seam would need to be. And I'm just playing about with ideas in my head here of how a denim jacket goes together. So you do have those seams down front, sometimes you have the yoke on the shoulders. Obviously the sleeves have been cut off rough on this as part of the look. And yeah, I think that's okay. Now we just have to figure out that turtleneck, and I've done a fairly jagged line on the bottom of it, on the hem, because I feel like maybe this is a character that just takes a pair of scissors to whatever he's wearing to get the look he wants. and that kind of ties in with the jacket. Big chunky belt, give him a big belt buckle, maybe that's his logo, maybe that's who he is, and that's related somehow to his superpower. We'll figure that out later. Maybe it's something I'll get rid of later, maybe it's something I'll keep, I don't know. For the trousers to look slouchy, I'm keeping them fairly close on the thighs, but then not really taking anything out when you get below the knee. So they're going to be tucked into the boots, but sort of like scrunched up over the top of the boots. Yeah, just a few suggestive lines for where folds and creases are going to be, and then we'll put these cuffs on and make them chunky. Put some spikes in, why not? Let's put some spikes on one of them, and that's a fun little detail to have in there. I don't want to go overboard on the details this early on, because I'm very aware that if I put more details in now, I'm going to have to draw it later. Which is, I think, why a lot of cartoon characters, a lot of comic book characters, they don't have tattoos, because then you have to draw them every single time. Boots, keep it very simple, just standard hiking boots, army boots, nothing fancy. Have them a little bit slouchy, only want them laced up to like the ankle, rather than all the way to the top. So just put some suggestions of details in, rather than going overboard, and just make them look about right. We'll not tie them up, we'll just have it so he just pulls them as tight as they need to be to stay on his feet. And then we'll just figure out what to do with the tongue, because obviously the tongue isn't held in to the boot now, so that's going to flop about and be a mess. Yeah, no, I think that's alright. I think the outfit is going to work okay. It has the right kind of vibe. Put an earring on, maybe? He's got that side shaved, so there's a bit of space for something. And again, we'll tie in that triangle and circle theme from the belt buckle into the earring. Maybe that's something to do with his character design. We'll see. Oh, and fingerless gloves, because I just felt like it. Maybe the spiky cuffs are part of that, maybe they're not. I don't know. This is a fun part of the concepting stage right now. Okay, so now that I've got the outfit the way I like it, I'm going to get rid of all of the lines from the body that I'm not going to use. Now the body is very important. You have to draw the body in to understand where the clothes are going to go, so all your proportions are correct. Because you've got to remember the clothes are a layer on top of the body, and if you draw the clothes without the body being sketched in underneath, you can make the clothes too tight, and it can really, I don't know, it spoils the illusion somewhat. But I think this is okay. I think this is actually coming together. I like this design. I don't know who he is still. I don't even have a name come to mind. He feels a bit, I don't know, cyberpunky. I think I'm getting inspiration from various different bits of cyberpunk and 90s animated comic series. I think that's bleeding through into this. I'm not questioning it, I'm just going to roll with it, see who we end up with. Now it's time to make the inking done in my style. So I just want to add some weight and depth, but I know this is one of the things where I need improvement, because I'm fairly confident putting this sort of basic inking in here, but texture evades me. I'm not great at putting texture in. So a lot of my work can look a bit flat when I try and do characters like this, and he is suffering a bit from that with his face particularly. It's not got the dimension and expression that I'd like it to have. His clothes are too clean, too tidy. They should be a little bit scuffed up, I think. But the point of this exercise is to create a starting point. I've got to have a reference point for where I begin, so then I know what I'm going to learn and what I'm going to change going forwards with this series. So as you can see, I'm just doing some very simple extra ink lines, and all this is based on is my knowledge of where I would expect there to be shadow. So if I would expect it to be in shadow, or to have a shadow of the item behind it, I'll put a heavier line. If I don't expect anything, like on the top of the boot, I'll leave that just as it is right now. But I know from looking at various comics and, you know, the information in this book that I'm a little bit too light on my inking. I should be a bit more aggressive on my shading and my shadows. So for me, this is basically finished. on the inking, but I should be doing more. I should be adding more detail, I should be adding more texture, more depth than I've got here, and I'm just struggling with this drop shadow underneath him. I want something simple for the background, just so it feels a little bit more finished as a whole image. We'll just pull out these triangles again, make use of those. Nothing too extravagant here. Just copy that, flip it. The joy of digital is I can just move things around where I want them. If I was doing this in traditional media, it's a lot of redrawing and a lot of effort, so it's nice not to have to do that. Yeah, just pop I've got the visor, the shades, whatever they are, on a separate layer here because I want them slightly transparent, and again, this is another benefit of doing it digitally rather than traditional media. We'll go with hot pink. Why not? It ties in with the whole cyberpunk feel of this. And I'll just do some basic colouring and shading just to give them, you know, a look, which should work okay for what we're doing. Skin tone. I'm pretty sure that he's going to be black. And I think it's the hair more than anything else that's made me think that. Because I just wanted to do this massive hair with an interesting cut, and I don't know, he's a big lad, and I think I can get away with a lot of interesting colours. I know there are some different techniques with inking for black characters, because you're dealing with darker tones. So if I went with a darker skin tone than this, I might be using white ink on the skin rather than black ink. But for now, I think this will be fine. I'm not doing anything too crazy with the colour on his hair. We'll keep that natural. So it's almost like he's just got a lot of volume in his hair, and all he does is he just shaves it to just control it a bit, and that's fine. We'll go with a nice bright yellow for that crop top. That is what I used on the concept-y sketchy bit. You'll notice I haven't put the chain back in, and I think when I put the spikes on the cuff, I think it felt like it was enough. I didn't feel like I needed to add more accessories. Definitely wasn't because I didn't want to draw chain links or beads or whatever it was going to be. So maybe he'll get one of those later, we'll see. For now, we'll just go with the nice bright blue cuffs, a pale, like stone-washed jacket, so it looks a bit more like an older jacket. Would definitely benefit from some textures on that. Black leather on the gloves, that seems appropriate, and we'll just do some hot pink spikes, why not? That's, they don't have to be metal, maybe they're rubber or plastic or something like that. Black leather boots to match the gloves, yeah, that should be fine. I mean, they could be fabric. That's the problem as well with my inking style, you can't really tell what things are until I colour them, and then different people are going to read that differently. So if I learn how to do some textures a bit better, then I'm going to be a little bit better at that. Just put some stubble in on his shaved head so that it looks like stubble, a little bit of colour there, because again, my texturing just doesn't suggest it. And now I have to decide what colour to do the trousers. I did think about doing these camo, but like with tattoos, if I do them in camo, I've got to do them in camo every single time. That's a lot of work. So we'll just go with the grey. The grey will make all the coloured parts pop out a lot more, and it's going to go with his skin tone quite well. It's not a dark colour, so his boots will stand out. So I am aware of that. Like when I'm doing colour on a character, I want that character to read fairly easily when I do a page, and the colour does a lot of heavy lifting for me. It does a lot of the work that my inking should be doing. Played about with those triangles in the background, get those into a better colour choice, and now I'm just doing a simple drop shadow. This is very lazy. For this sort of image it's fine, but I know this is a bad habit. This is a habit that I have to shortcut doing some better inking work, and I shouldn't do it. But we're doing it here because this is how I do things, and these are the things I have to unlearn. Yeah, I still don't have a name for him. I don't know who he is, I don't know what he does, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He's just, at the moment, he's just a character on the page. And as we go through this series, we'll find out who he is. If you've got any ideas, leave a comment down below. Let me know who you think this is and what he does, and maybe that will spark something in my brain, and it will give me some ideas of the direction to go. Nothing about this character is set in stone. All of this might change as we go along, as I learn more things about inking and texture and dynamic posing, perspective, composition will likely change quite a bit, this guy. But for now, this is like our character reference. This is where we're starting from, so we understand who we've got and who he needs to be. I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. I will admit today has been a bit of a rough one, and I was struggling a little bit to actually get through this. I did have quite a lot of attempts to get this to even this stage. But I'm glad I've got there. I'm glad we have something to work with. And the next thing is going to be how we refine that and how we build on what you see here. Okay, to wrap things up, this is the book I'm using. It was first printed in the 70s. It's from Stanley and John Buscema. Buscema? I don't know how you say his surname. And it's How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. I don't have a link to it or anything like that because I'm not sponsored. I don't have an affiliate link. This was a birthday gift from Pat. Because I've been wanting to get into doing traditional comic work again. I've tried this years ago and I really struggled because I didn't have the relevant knowledge to build on. Now, unfortunately, I have the relevant knowledge to build on and a whole host of bad habits. So I've got to unlearn some of that, and that's what this video is really about. I wanted to show you and me how I build a character and the places where I'm going wrong. So I already know, for example, that I build a character the wrong way round. I don't build a gesture sketch or a skeleton or a basic pose, I just go straight in and draw it. And that's an incredibly bad habit because then you end up locking in bad proportions and then it gets stuck through the whole process. That's part of the reason you saw me fiddling about so much with the character, because I'd just not set what I was going to do. Your planning is important. The other thing I need to do is figure out texture. I'm not very good at texture in inking, never have been. And I think a lot of it is because I'm basically too afraid of putting too much ink on the page, which is ridiculous because I'm working digitally, so I can just put it on a different layer and get rid of it if it's wrong. So I definitely need to learn some of that, because as you can see, my inking style is really too clean, and it means that without colour, a lot of my inked pictures don't read particularly well. That in turn means it takes me a lot longer to do a piece, and I need to get quicker. I need to be producing these things faster. It takes me too long to do any comic work right now. I also need to get a lot better at faces. I'm not very good at human faces still. I'm okay, you know, they read as a human face, but I'm not great at them, so I need to understand what lines to and not to use there, so we'll do some of that. And although we didn't cover it in this one, I definitely need to get better at composition, perspective, foreshortening, heroic proportions, page layout. I have a lot to learn and a lot to unlearn, so that's what I hope I can go into on this particular series. Alongside the book, I will also be watching videos on YouTube of other creators. If I come across any that are particularly useful, I will throw links out there. But this video, which is a little bit longer, is just the first one to show you where I'm at, show me where I'm at. So later on in the series, we can go back to this character we've just made and see how much we've improved him, how much my style's improved, and how many mistakes and bad habits I've managed to get rid of along the way. So I hope you'll stick with me on that. Do subscribe, do interact with the video. I do a lot of different things here, but this is going to be part of the Craft Week stuff, and hopefully I'll be bringing you these fairly regularly. If you want to see videos early, do check the links in the description below. I don't know why I pointed up there, it's down there, where you can see my Patreon, there's links to my website, my print shop, all that good stuff. And I will hopefully see you in the next video, and yeah, don't be too mean. See you next time.